Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to Christmas in Arkham 2023. So far we've got Ithaca and Nyarlathotep who've come out of our first two play groups. Ithaca advanced via no Elder Signs. Nyarlathotep also, I believe, advanced via no Elder Signs. Let me just double check that real quick. I've got my phone right here. I'll need to go grab my iPad though, so I can actually type out the results for each of our ancient ones in today's group. Yes. So both of them took no Elder Signs. Ithaca had 3 curses, whereas Nyarlathotep had 2. So both are putting... So far our ancient ones advancing to the winners group have put on very strong performances. Speaking of groups, we've got our last play-in group that we're going to be going through here today. So let's move over to the altar and get everything set up. Just in case you're happening on this is the first video in the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament that you're seeing, I'll just go through a quick explanation of how each location, of how the game roughly works. Let me see if I can... Okay. So we've got our 6 locations on the altar where we can go for various effects. Each one of them has an astral symbol with them. The one at the other worlds might be hard to see, but each location has an astral symbol with it that you can use to prepare spells on your turn. So there are 2 fate pieces in the solo game. We'll be controlling the darker fate piece that starts at the other worlds. The investigators will be controlling the lighter fate piece that starts at the streets of Arkham. At the other worlds, which has a wild symbol attached to it, you can sacrifice your cultists there to gain progress on your summoning track, which is how you win the game. You get your ancient ones summoned. They call them Elder God. I tend to call them Ancient Ones just because that's what I'm used to from the Arkham Horror Files. I use the 2 names interchangeably. At the museum, you can get one of these 2 artifacts, and we'll go through those once I finish going through the rest of the locations. At the ceremony, each Ancient One has a dark gift that you can trigger. You'll also get a gate card as part of that. That one's got a white symbol. The museum's got a blue. So we'll be discarding cards matching those symbols to move to those locations. You can also discard 2 matching symbols to move to any location as a wild. The Streets of Arkham has a yellow symbol on it, and it works a little bit different in the solo game. So in a normal multiplayer game, you'll give investigators to the other lodges and then raid them. Whereas in the solo game, when you go there, when you go there as the Ancient One, you can actually get rid of 2 of your 2 investigators on your lodge, and then sacrifice a cultist there to get rid of another one if you have control. If the investigators move there, then you have a raid immediately. Over at the gathering with a green symbol, you can gain cultists from the abyss in the middle of the board, and then move 1 or all if you have control of the location. Then at the library, you can draw 3. You'll get to draw 3 spell cards, which I think are just out of shot. I believe it's this. The stack that's over here, where I'm pointing with my laser pointer, the stack of spells is right next to that. So we'll draw 3 spells, and then we can ready 1 additional spell using the same astral column that's over there. So let's go through our opening reserves. So for the artifact display, first up we have the Amulet of Nephrin Ka. Exhaust to change 1 lesser Elder Sign to a tentacle, or discard to change them all. And Forgotten Tome. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library to draw 2 spells. And for monsters, our first monster reserve in the reserve, Deep Ones, 3 tokens. Upon summoning, place a Deep One on 3 different locations. On your turn, you may remove 1 token to choose a location occupied by a Deep One and destroy a cultist or an investigator at that location. The Deep Ones count as 1 cultist for purposes of control, but can't be sacrificed. The special doesn't affect us because A, this is a solo game, and B, we don't use Dagon during this tournament anyway. And the reason I don't use Dagon is he's not an Ancient One that crosses all 3 games. Those are the Ancient Ones that have to be... The Ancient Ones have to cross... Actually, it would be all 4 games, because this, plus the 3 Arkham Horror Files games that are involved in Christmas in Arkham. So those are the ones who'd have to be eligible for... Those are the ones that are eligible for the tournament. And then the second monster here, Hound of Tyndalos. I still haven't figured out a way to use this thing in the solo game. 2 tokens. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hound of Tyndalos on the summon track of any lodge. The cult's summon track cannot advance while being occupied by the Hound of Tyndalos. To remove the Hound of Tyndalos, the cult may either choose to become cursed or visit the ceremony and remove the Hound of Tyndalos instead of activating the Ancient One's Dark Gift. The Hound of Tyndalos is then returned to this card. The Hound of Tyndalos is removed from play when it returns to this card and there are no more tokens. Yeah, that's one I really still don't know how I want to use in the solo game. I mostly just ignore it, but we need to go meet our Ancient One, our first Ancient One in this group. Our first Ancient One in this third and final play-in group is the King in Yellow himself, Hastur. He managed to get summoned during last year's Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, but he was eliminated via tiebreakers in the first group. For his Dark Gift, he's got Dance of the Outer Gods. Starting from the ceremony and proceeding clockwise, you may roll 1 die for each location on the altar where you have an investigator present. If for each cultist or tentacle or Cthulhu rolled, place 1 cultist from your lodge on that location and move an investigator from there to any other location. And then as far as his starting spells, looks like they are all white. So our first spell, Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 green and a red. Choose one other cultist. That part won't impact us during a solo game. You return 3 of your cultists from the Abyss and place them in your lodge. Next up, Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a yellow. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. And Corruption, taking a yellow or a green. Either sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge or become cursed. Then you may advance 1 on the summon track or destroy 2 Elder Signs from your lodge. So we've got some options that we can work with there, but now we can move back over to the altar and get into Hastur's playthrough. I'm honestly not that thrilled with the artifacts right now, so I don't need to go to the museum to start the game. The ceremony is an option just because I can start spamming getting my cultists out quickly. And I can't move to the streets of Arkham because the Investigator's Fate piece is there. I could move to the Gathering if I want to get more cultists out, and the library is always an option to draw more cards. But I think for now, I'm going to discard Necessary Evil at the other worlds to move down to the ceremony, which will put a cultist and an investigator there. And here I think I do want temporary control because I can potentially get a jump on the summon track. But we'll need one of the dice. Yes, I'm still planning on swapping out that dice tower because green die on green tower is kind of hard to see. So I'm planning on going out a little bit later this morning so I can try to get a new dice tower, a new smaller dice tower, because I really like that big tower that I've got. This one is just, I don't get temporary control, which is unfortunate. But as I was saying about the dice tower, I like it. It's very thematic, but it can be hard to see. So coming back to the game, I will get a gate card that I can use to move anywhere, and I'm only allowed to have 1 of those. So I'll trigger Hastur's Dark Gift, starting from the other worlds. If I roll a Tentacle or a Cthulhu, I place a cultist there from the lodge and move 1. This could be dangerous, though, and move 1 investigator from there to any other location. This could be dangerous, though, because if I end up getting all Cthulhus or Tentacles, I'm going to be facing an Elder Sign penalty already. So at the ceremony, I do get to place a Cthulhu or a cultist, and I'm going to start stacking the streets of Arkham. Moving to the museum, No luck there. At the ceremony, nope. Streets of Arkham, yes, I do get to place a cultist there. Unfortunately, I do have to move a cultist off. I will move to... let's move to the museum, since I'm not thrilled with the artifacts right now. At the gathering... get to place a cultist there, which that may be my next stop, and I'll stack this, can go back to stacking the Streets of Arkham. Then the library. Nope, so I don't get a cultist at the library. And then since I didn't get temporary control of the location, I can't trigger the effect at the ceremony, which means we won't need to go through that. And then Cthulhu. Hastur can ready a spell, but I don't think on a white and yellow, he's not readying anything with that, so we'll just draw a card. On a blue, we'll find Mind Switch, taking a green and a white. Swap one of your cultists from any one location with a different cultist at a different location. I'm going to use that as swapping investigators around. Speaking of the investigators, they'll be placing a green to move over to the gathering and place an investigator. I wouldn't have minded being able to go there, but alas. Actually, I could probably use the gate card here to move over to the library. So I'll discard that at the ceremony and move up to the gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I get to roll for temporary control of the location. Not that I think I have any spells right now that I want to ready at no cost. I don't get temporary control, which I don't completely mind that. I will get to draw 3 cards, though, but with a red and a green, as of right now, I'm not readying anything for that, so I'll draw 3 cards. On a red, I'll find Alhazred's Vengeance, taking blue, yellow, white. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least one cultist on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. That sounds like movement fodder to me. On a blue, I'll find The Stars Are Right, taking a white and 2 yellow. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an Elder Sign, gain 2 cultists from the Abyss, gain 2 investigators, which would go on your lodge, or become cursed. Finally, on a yellow, Cubes of Power, taking a red and a white. When you are rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. Then, like I said, with a green and a red there, I don't have anything I'm preparing, so no. Alright, so I'll draw, and on a white Hastur we'll find Enthrall, taking 2 red. Choose one location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. I'm going to rule that'll be investigators. Speaking of investigators, they'll discard a white at the gathering to move over to the ceremony and place an investigator. Which now frees my hand if I want to move to the gathering, and I think I do. So I'm going to discard Enthrall for sure, because I won't need that. And do I have another white that I want to discard? I think we'll bin Sign of the Brotherhood as well. So we'll discard those at the library to move down to the gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator there. And since I control the location outright, I don't have to roll for temporary control. I can return 3 cultists from the Abyss, going back to my lodge, and then I would be able to move 1 with the regular action, but because I have control, I get to move all 3, and I'll move them up to the other worlds. I may need to try to go get another gate card, but that's going to, well, I was going to say that'll be hard to do, but actually it won't be. With a green, white, yellow, I've got some options here. I'm actually going to prepare a mind switch. So I can swap a cultist from any one location with a cultist from a different location. Once again, I'll use that with the investigators. So now I have a blue prepared for purposes of casting spells. And on a white, Hastur will draw. Enlighten the Faithful, taking blue, green, yellow. At the end of your turn, you may move up to three of your cultists from any one location to another location. The investigators will then discard a yellow card at the ceremony to move over to the streets of Arkham, putting another investigator out. And we would get raided, but we don't have any investigators on the lodge right now. Am I going to go ahead with that plan of moving over to the ceremony? I think I am. The question is, what am I discarding to do it? I kind of want to cast that Corruption. Actually, I want to be able to cast both of these spells. Actually, yeah, I'm going to discard Corruption at the... I'm going to discard Corruption at the Gathering to move over to the ceremony. There are three cultists, or three investigators on the ceremony, so I will have to take them in. I'll put a cultist out and another investigator. Once again, I control the location outright, so I'll be able to do the control action there, which will actually be to sacrifice 2 cultists to advance 1 on the summon track. But before we do that, I'll take my gate card, then I'll activate my Dark Gift, which could be potentially dangerous because if I get three cultist placements, then I'd be out of cultists in the lodge, and I'd have to take a penalty for that. But we're starting from the other worlds. We don't get to place a cultist there. At the museum, we do get to place a cultist. We'll move that to the streets of Arkham. Then at the ceremony, we'll get to place another cultist there. We'll actually move that one to the other worlds because I think the other worlds are probably going to be our next stop. Streets of Arkham. No. Gathering. No. And the library. Here I almost want to see an Elder Sign because, like I said, I'd be out of cultists if I don't. That's a Cthulhu, so I do place a cultist, and I'll move this investigator up to the other worlds. So now Hastur will be taking an Elder Sign penalty, which is unfortunate. Actually, I don't mind that too much. But actually what we're going to do here is we're also going to take the control action, where I'm going to sacrifice 2 of Hastur's cultists to advance 1 on his summon track. So that's the control action. Then with a... Actually, we have a couple of spells that I wouldn't mind... Actually, here's what we're going to avoid that penalty, actually. And the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to prepare... So since we're at the end of the turn, we're near the end of the turn, so we're in the spell phase, we're actually going to use the white and 2 yellow to prepare and immediately cast The Stars Are Right. And we'll assign ourselves the gain 2 cultists from the Abyss. So that's gone. We'll get 2 cultists back. I wanted to cast... Well, actually, I could cast Mind Switch as well. I wanted to be able to cast the... I wanted to be able to prepare and cast Enlighten the Faithful, but I think avoiding the Elder Sign penalty was more important. So we're also going to cast Mind Switch, which will let me switch this cultist and that investigator. Then Hastur will draw one card. He'll draw, on a green he'll find Transmogrify, taking a white and a yellow. Change any one rolled die to any face. If the new face is a tentacle or a Cthulhu, become cursed. The investigators at the streets of Arkham will discard a red to move up to the library and place an investigator. Now that we got saved from the penalty, is there anywhere we can go? Because I still kind of want to prepare Enlighten the Faithful at some point. Actually, we could go to the other world because we would be rolling 7 dice. But you know what? I think I'm going to discard a green at the ceremony to move over to the gathering. I don't take the cultists in. I'll gain a cultist and an investigator. I'm not going to bother rolling for temporary control because getting temporary control really does nothing for me. So I'll pull these 3 cultists over to my lodge, and then I'll move this one up to the other worlds. Then with green and white, I'm not preparing anything. So on a green, Hastur will find Witch's Curse, taking white and red. Choose a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Sounds like garbage to me. The investigators at the library will then discard a red, trying to move to the library, but they're there already, so they'll move up to the other worlds, placing another investigator there. We could risk the Dark Gift here, but I don't think that's a good plan. So I think what we'll do instead is we'll discard a... Actually, this kind of works. So I'm going to discard Alhazred's Vengeance, which is basically Alhat Garbaggio, to move up to the library, which will place an investigator and another cultist. Then I do have control of the location outright, so I'll be able to sacrifice a cultist. It's 1, right? Yes, 1 to ready a spell at no cost. So I'll be drawing 3 cards. I can ready an additional spell using the same astral column, which I need to see what's all there. 2 red, 2 white, and a green. On a blue, Hastur will find Broken Seal, taking 3 blue. Destroy an Elder Sign. You may sacrifice 1 cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. On a red, Hastur will find Sign of the Brotherhood, this time taking 2 blue and a green. And on a blue Cthulhu, or Hastur will find, I keep wanting to say Cthulhu for some reason, Cubes of Power, taking a white and a blue. Okay, so I think with that in mind, one of the spells that I'll prepare at cost will be Cubes of Power. So that'll give me additional dice on the roll. Do I have anything else I can prepare with the same column? I do not. So I think at no cost, I will sacrifice a cultist to prepare Enlighten the Faithful. I'll be immediately casting that at the end of my turn, which we're at now. So conclude step. Because on a green, Hastur will draw another Sign of the Brotherhood. This one takes 2 yellow and a white. All of this is gone. And then at the end of the turn, Hastur will cast Enlighten the Faithful to move 3 cultists. Move up to 3 cultists from any one location to any other location. These 3 guys are going right to the other worlds, to the shock of, well, not yours truly. The investigators will then discard a green at the other worlds to move down to the gathering. That's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 dice. So Hastur is going to go for it. He's going to use his gate to move up to the other worlds. Placing this will be his 11th cultist, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Yep. And then another investigator. And then since we have control of the location, any Cthulhu's we roll would bring in a cultist back back to the lodge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to be rolling 11 dice. Actually, probably more than that, because I think we're going to add cubes of power to the roll. So Hastur will be rolling a total of 13 dice. If 8 of these are summons, then Hastur will basically be in the driver's seat for this group, I would say. So we're going to have to... I'm going to grab a different die so I can track the number of summons that we've got. Opening the closet door. Grabbing out some dice. Let's go for a D8. That should be all I need. Closing the closet door. So I've got a die here so I can track the number of summons I've got. Once again, I'll move the dice tower out of the way so you can see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Plus 2 from cubes of power is 13 dice. So once again, we need 8 of these to be summons. Oop. I definitely like what I see, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, I'm going to grab another die. Never mind. I've got a D6 right here that I can use because I want to track... In case I don't get the summons I need, I want to be able to track the number of Cthulhu's I've got as well. So I've got 2, 4, 6. The D8 is going to be for the number of summons I've got. The D6 will be for the Cthulhu's. So far I've got 6 summons and 4 Cthulhu's. We'll grab 3 more of these dice. I'll pull these out just so they don't knock anything, since those have already been rolled. Putting the lid back on. Wow, that's a roll. So I guess I didn't need the extra dice after all. I just do it like that. So that was quite the roll for Hastur. So that's 8 and 5. So, doing this by the book, Hastur would sacrifice 8 cultists. That was 5. Actually, that was 4, I think. Because he had 11 there. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 would then return to his lodge. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hastur has managed to get summoned. He is... Wow, I'm calling this the definition of in the driver's seat. So Hastur, yes to being summoned, no elder signs, and no curses. That is very easily the strongest performance in either tournament that we've done the last 2 years. So, I will get everything reset for that. I will get everything reset for the next Ancient one, and both of our next 2 Ancient ones have a very steep hill to climb. So, let me shut the camera off, and we'll get ready for the next Ancient one. Just realized I'm not quite done with setup yet, before I turn the camera back on. Oh well. It happens. This is actually a good thing. This actually might be a good thing as well, because it'll let you see how the game gets set up. So you start off with a cultist on each location, along with the investigator. Dark Fate piece always starts off at the other worlds. Well, the Fate piece you're controlling starts off at the other worlds. The one the investigators are controlling starts off at the streets of Arkham. You put 1 cultist on each location, 7 in the Abyss. I kind of lay them out on the one side, just because the dice tower fits so nicely in... Just because I can then put the dice tower on the other side, which is the main reason I like that dice tower being laid out the way it is. And then the other 7 cultists, which are right here, will go on the lodge. As soon as we get them placed, we'll flip over the artifact display and the monster reserve for the next ancient one. And this one may actually see some use of the monster reserve because the others have largely the other ancient ones have largely ignored it. But let's start by revealing our displays. So first up in the artifact display, we have the Silk Shroud of Atlok Naka. Exhaust to move one investigator being placed on your lodge to any location instead. Discard to return to the supply up to 2 investigators from your lodge. And the Lamp of Alhazred. Discard to roll 3 dice. For each elder sign, gain an elder sign, then immediately take another turn. In the monster reserve, first up we have the Useless Hound of Tyndalos, which I'm not sure how we're using yet. And a Shub-Niggurath. Place the Shub-Niggurath at the other worlds. Once summoned and at the beginning of each of your turns, roll a die for each investigator present at the Shub-Niggurath's location. For each Cthulhu, return 1 to the supply. For each greater elder sign, move 1 investigator to the next clockwise location. After all dice have been rolled, move the Shub-Niggurath to the next clockwise location. When Shub-Niggurath returns to the other worlds, destroy all investigators on your lodge, then remove Shub-Niggurath from play. That's all set up, so let's go meet our next ancient one. In order for Shub-Niggurath to be able to repeat as the winner of this year's Fate of the Elder Gods tournament, she'll need to have a performance like she did in the winners group last year, minus the 4 curses she took on her way to getting into the... minus her 4 curses on the way to winning Christmas in Arkham. The ability she has to help her out with that is Thousand Young. Discard any monster you control and its corresponding tokens. Draw 3 monster cards from the face-down monster reserve. Summon 1 and place the other cards at the bottom of the monster reserve. This does not result in a curse. Because normally when you summon monsters, it's through a spell, and you usually get cursed in the process of that. So that's a big part of the reason why the Ancient Ones have mostly been ignoring the monster reserve. Anyway, we have our cards, our starting spells here. So on a white, Shub-Niggurath will find Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a yellow. We saw this earlier, didn't use it. And on a green, Shub-Niggurath will have Command, taking a wild card and a white, or purple and a white. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. And on another green, we'll have Find Gate, taking a white and a red. At the start of your turn, draw a gate card regardless of whether you have a gate already. During the move phase of your turn, you have to use this gate for movement. With that, let's move over to the altar and get into Shub-Niggurath's playthrough. Time is not going to be friendly to the Black Goat of the Woods. So the question here is, I think here we'll actually use a white at the other worlds to move down to the ceremony, which will place a cultist and an investigator. And we'll roll for temporary control. Putting the dice tower in the middle of the table. We won't get temporary control, not that I was expecting it. Then we'll draw a gate card and activate Shub-Niggurath's Dark Gift. She doesn't have a monster that she controls right now, so we'll draw 3 from the monster reserve. I really wanted that Shub-Niggurath, but alas, no dice there. So first up we'll find a goat spawn. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the goat spawn on a location, then roll 3 dice. For each lesser elder sign, move an investigator to another location. For each greater elder sign, move an investigator to any lodge. Then choose a cult with at least 1 cultist at this location. That cult becomes cursed. That monster sounds terrible. Second up, Buyout key. Upon summoning, gain a gate card and place the buyout key on any location. On your turn, you may discard a token to move the buyout key and any 2 cultists at its current location to any other location. That could be useful aside from the gaining a gate card. And Amigo. Three tokens and 2 of them have artifact symbols. On your turn, instead of playing an astral symbol, you may discard 1 token to move the fate piece to another location and place Amigo there instead of a cultist. Amigo are considered cultists but count as 2 for purposes of control. Amigo can't be sacrificed. After a token is discarded and Amigo are placed in the location, if an artifact is revealed, place an artifact from the top of the artifact deck face down in the current location's astral column. The next cult to ready a spell there takes the artifact. I think we're going to grab the Amigo, actually. So I'll put that on by my play area. Grabbing 3 tokens for that. And then the other 2 can go to the bottom of the reserve. The bottom of the face-down reserve. Alright, we didn't get temporary control, so I don't get to sacrifice any cultists. Am I preparing anything with 2 white? That doesn't seem likely to me, no. Speaking of white, Shub-Niggurath will draw on a white. Witch's Curse. Choosing a cult, that cult becomes cursed. Take a red and a blue. From the streets of Arkham, the investigators will discard a green to move over to the gathering and place an investigator. From the ceremony, then, do I want to use the gate, or I could use the Migo. Is there anything I want to prepare? Want to? Yes. Am I going to be able to? That's the question. And the answer to that is probably not. So I can't move to either location. But actually I have the gate I can use to move anywhere, which I will use to move up to the museum, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I'll roll for temporary control of the location, mostly so I can try to sweep the artifact display clear. So I'm not that impressed with any of those artifacts. I don't get temporary control. I'll draw an artifact from the top of the deck, so Shub-Niggurath will find Runic Chalk. While Runic Chalk is in play, increase your spell reserve by 1 and discard to ready a spell for free. If we had more powerful spells, I'd probably be a lot warmer to that idea. With 2 blue, I'm not preparing anything there. So on a yellow, Shub-Niggurath will draw. Alter Fate, taking a green and a red. Either reroll up to 3 of your dice once or 1 of your dice up to 3 times. From the gathering, the investigators will discard a red to move up to the library, placing an investigator there. We will then discard a green at the museum to move over to the gathering, placing an investigator and a cultist. Then we'll roll for temporary control of the location. And of course I put the lid over by Shub-Niggurath's playmat, because I'm a smart boy today, apparently. No temporary control, which I don't necessarily need. So I'll gain 3 of my cultists back to the lodge, moving 1 up to the other worlds. Then with a green and 2 red, I will go ahead and prepare Alter Fate, so I'm set up for a reroll later. Those are gone, and now I have a yellow for purposes of preparing spells. On a blue, Shub-Niggurath will draw Sign of the Brotherhood, taking 2 red and a blue. We won't worry about the choose one other cult part because this isn't a multiplayer game. You return 3 of your cultists from the Abyss and place them in your lodge. Let's keep the lid to the cup over here. The investigators at the library will discard a white to move over to the ceremony and put an investigator down. These spells are actually pretty good, but I'm going to have to discard the Migo. I'm going to have to discard a token to place a Migo at the library and move the fate piece there. Right? Yep, okay. Alright, so now I'm caught out of having 3 cultists there to the investigators 2. So we have control of the location, which means I can ready a spell at no cost. I'll draw 3 cards, and I can ready an additional spell using the same column. So on a red I'll find Gate taking a blue and a yellow. We have another Find Gate in hand. On a white, Shadow Walk to take a 2 yellow and a blue. At the end of my turn, I can sacrifice a cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. Except remember, with tiebreakers, that's a very dangerous play because Hastur got summoned with no Elder Signs or with no blemishes, let's say that. And on a blue, we'll find Cubes of Power, taking a white and a blue. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to the roll. So we can sacrifice a cultist to ready 1 for free. On a white and red, actually, we are going to cast Find Gate. We are going to prepare Find Gate. Let's see, then an additional spell using the same column, which we're not going to do, but we will sacrifice a cultist from the library. Are we preparing Cubes of Power, I think? Actually, I think we're going to prepare... We are going to prepare Cubes of Power, so we can add that later, which means those are gone. And then on a red Shub-Niggurath, we'll draw Rack, taking 2 green. Destroy 1 cultist from any 1 location or lodge. The investigators at the ceremony will discard a blue to move up to the museum and place an investigator. You discard a token to move the fate piece to another location instead of playing an astral symbol. What to do? Well, I'm going to discard 2 white. Where am I moving them to is the question. I'm not ready to go to the other worlds yet because I only have 2 cultists there. And I'm probably going to have the best chance if I bite this off in 1 shot. I could toss another... I think I'll toss another token, actually. Which, after a token, is to move the fate piece to another location. So I'll move it to the gathering, which will bring all 3 investigators to the lodge. I do get to place the artifact face down in the library's astral column. And I get to place a Migo there as well. Placing it... Oh. Does that... I place a Migo there instead of a cultist. Okay, I was wondering about that. But we do get another investigator. I control the location outright. I'll get 3 cultists back. And then I can move any number of them, which I can move that one to the other worlds. Then with only a green there, I'm not readying anything. So on a blue, Shub-Niggurath will find Alhazred's Vengeance, taking red, green, white. Reveal when another cult takes an action and places at least 1 cultist on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed. And I just saw what the investigators are doing. They're actually discarding a green at the museum to try to move to the gathering, except we're there, so they move up to the other worlds. And that will give Shub-Niggurath her first curse. Now, I'm honestly tempted at this point to just stop Shub-Niggurath's playthrough, because remember, Hastur took no Elder Signs and no curses. So even if she gets summoned, then she won't be on deck to be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham, but I think we're going to continue with it anyway. Doo-dee-doo. I think we're going to move... I think we're going to use a rack to move back to the library, which will place an investigator, or a cultist and an investigator. We'll see if we get temporary control of the location. He's being able to sacrifice a cultist. I mean, we're not readying any spells here anyway. We do get temporary control, though, so we do have an option. We also have... we also have our spell reserve increased by 1 because of the runic chalk. On a green, Shub-Niggurath will find Power Surge, taking a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. On a blue, she'll find Enlighten the Investigators, taking a red and a white. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places two investigators in their lodge. That sounds like garbage to me. And on another blue, Shadow Walk, taking 2 red and a white. At the end of your turn, you may sacrifice 1 cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn. No thanks. And with the red, we're not preparing anything unless we sacrifice a cultist to prepare for free, and I think we will, actually. I think we will sacrifice our cultist to prepare Power Surge. So until the end of our turn, we could control the location. Which means we do get the artifact, so Shub-Niggurath will find. The Necronomicon, when you gain this artifact, become cursed. She can exhaust to add wild for readying a spell, and discard to move the fate piece to another location. Except the second curse is even more well, really it doesn't change anything at this point. Because she's already doomed from taking the first curse. The investigators at the other worlds will then discard a red, trying to move to the library, except they can't, so they just move to the streets of Arkham instead, and that will be Shub-Niggurath's 3rd curse. She's suddenly starting to gain curses like crazy, which will place another investigator. And just to make matters even more fun for the Black Goat of the Woods, she'll be getting rated with 3 dice because she's got 3 investigators on her lodge. One investigator stays, but it's also 1 elder sign. As if the Black Goat of the Woods didn't have enough problems right now. We can get those out of the way. We'll leave one of the tentacles in there. Let's see. So over to Shub-Niggurath's turn. She's going to use 2 white at the library to move up to the other worlds, which will place a cultist and an investigator. And I think here, when you're rolling, you may add 2 additional dice to the roll. Find gate, alter fate, and that's a power surge, but we don't need that. I think we're just going to... I think we're just going to... Actually, I think we are going to cast Cubes of Power, mostly so I can get some room in the reserve, because I feel like this should be a good location for preparing spells. So we're going to get 6 dice at this, even though we've only got 4 cultists there. But that's enough for 3 summons. So we'll sacrifice 3 cultists, 1 will return to the lodge, and then Shub-Niggurath will advance 3 on her summon track. Then with red, white, blue, and potential for 2 wilds, I think we are going to cast I think we are going to cast or prepare Sign of the Brotherhood. So we can return 3 cultists from the Abyss and place them in the Lodge. All of that's gone. On a white, Shub-Niggurath will find another Find Gate, taking a green and a yellow this time. The investigators at the streets of Arkham will discard a white to move to the ceremony and place another cultist, or another investigator. Then what are we doing this turn? I think here... We're going to discard. We're going to use a Shadow Walk at the other worlds to move to the museum, which will bring these cultists into the Lodge. Then I'm going to take an artifact from the top of the deck. So Shub-Niggurath will find the Jade Statue. Discard if you're at the other worlds to reroll up to 2 of your dice. We also place a cultist and an investigator. I took the investigators over, but I didn't replace the cultist and the investigator. We do have control of the location, so I could sacrifice... I could discard and replace the display, but I'm going to leave it. Then I'll sacrifice a cultist to destroy the Elder Sign that we just took. Even though our problem right now is not the Elder Sign, but the 3 curses that she's got on her. With 2 blue and 2 green and a full reserve, we're actually not preparing anything. So on a green, Shub-Niggurath will find Witch's Curse, taking a white and a red. It sounds like movement fodder to me. The investigators at the ceremony are going to discard a white to move to the streets of Arkham, which will place another investigator, and we'll get rated immediately with 4 dice. I'll put those up there. And I can't stop putting the lid over by the Ancient One. Two Elder Signs, one investigator stays. There could have been a lot worse rolls out of that. Alright, so that will get them all out of there. Then what are we doing this turn? Good question. Let's see, what do we even have in hand right now? Actually, we could use Find Gate. Question is, where would we even move to at this point? We'll actually use Witch's Curse on a green from the museum to move down to the Gathering, which will place a cultist and an investigator. We have control of the location outright because of the Migo there. So we'll gain 3 cultists and move 1 to the other worlds. Then with a... We're actually not preparing anything because we have our spell reserve full. So on a yellow, Shub-Niggurath will draw Coerce the Innocent, taking white, green, red. Move up to 2 cult investigators remaining 1 location or lodge to any lodge. The investigators from the streets of Arkham will discard a green, trying to move to the Gathering, but instead they move to the other worlds, which will place another investigator and give Shub-Niggurath her 4th curse. 1 more and she's out via curses. Finding that Necronomicon really hurt. So at the start of her turn, Shub-Niggurath will cast Find Gate to draw a gate card that she has to use for movement this turn. Where is she moving to, though? Pretty much anywhere she goes, she's getting raided. Well, she's going to add cultists, or add investigators. So I think we'll just move to the streets of Arkham, which will pull all 3 of those investigators onto her lodge. We'll place a cultist and another investigator. Let's see if we get temporary control of the location. She does, which means we can destroy... Which means we can return 2 investigators from the lodge back to the supply, and we'll sacrifice a cultist to return... That's not from the location. 1 more from the lodge. Then with 3 green, a white, and a yellow... 3 green, white, and yellow. We'll use green and yellow to prepare another find gate. So all of these are gone. And then on a green Shub-Niggurath we'll draw Coerce the Innocent. We have another copy of this in hand. Before we get into the investigator's next turn, I need to take a small break. The investigators at the other worlds will discard a red to move over to the library and place another investigator there. As for our turn, I think we're going to discard an Alhazred's Vengeance at the Streets of Arkham on a blue to move up to the museum, which will place a cultist and an investigator. We've got a lot of cultists in the lodge, but I don't think it's going to matter anything here. I think we'll discard the Jade Statue so we can draw a new artifact. So Shub-Niggurath will draw. The Chamber's Journal. Exhaust to choose any one location and roll a die. On a Cthulhu or Tentacle, add 1 investigator from your lodge to that location. On an Elder Sign, add 1 investigator from that lodge to your location. Okay. And that's the artifact we drew. I'm not going to sweep it clear, but I will sacrifice 2 cultists to destroy the 2 Elder Signs. So we actually still have a chance of at least getting summoned. Then with 2 blue and 3 green and a full reserve, we're not doing anything with that. On a blue Shub-Niggurath we'll draw. The stars are right. Taking a white and 2 yellow. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an Elder Sign, gain 2 cultists from the Abyss, gain 2 investigators, and become cursed. Not all that handy. The investigators at the library will discard a red, but they can't stay at the library, so they'll move up to the other worlds instead, placing another investigator. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cast Find... we're going to cast Find Gate to draw another gate card and use that for movement. The only question is, where are we moving? Pretty much anywhere we move, anywhere we could move, we would get raided. I think we'll actually move... We don't need more cultists. What spells do we have in hand? Well, we do have to remember we also have a wild for purposes of preparing spells. I think we'll move to the Gathering, because why not? Cultist, Investigator. Temporary control doesn't matter for anything, so we'll just gain the 3. And move the 1 up to the other worlds. Then we will prepare... Actually, we'll exhaust the Necronomicon for a wild, so we can prepare another Find Gate. That's one thing Shub-Niggurath has been good at this game, is mobility. On a yellow, she'll find Corruption. Taking white and green, either sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge or become cursed. Then you may advance 1 on the summon track or destroy 2 Elder Signs from your lodge. At the other worlds, the investigators will discard a white to move to the ceremony. As for us, we're going to cast that Find Gate And we'll use the gate to move up to the other world. Actually, that could be a bad plan. Yeah, I think we're just going to move up to the other worlds. I think at this point it's about pride for the Black Goat of the Woods after winning last year's Fate of the Elder Gods tournament. Shub-Niggurath is refusing to go down without a fight, even if the writing's very much on the wall at this point. Actually, the writing, I would say, isn't just on the wall. It's set in stone and blood at this point. 4 dice to try to get summoned. Two more progress. 2 cultists sacrificed for 2 more progress on the summon track. We didn't roll any Cthulhu's, so the control part wasn't relevant for us. Let's see, with red, white, blue, and 2 wild. I don't think we're going to prepare anything. So on a white Shub-Niggurath we'll draw. Rack taking 2 blue. Destroy 1 investigator from any 1 location or lodge. But she's getting rated now with 5 dice. So she's actually in a bad situation because if all 5 of these come up as Elder Signs, then Shub-Niggurath would take her 5th curse because of the Elder Signs meeting the summon progress. Which could very easily happen. Which it doesn't there, but 2 investigators will stay. She'll end up with 3 Elder Signs. Which is not a good situation right now for the Black Goat of the Woods to be in. Especially when those 2 investigators will get another shot at it, because from the ceremony, they'll be discarding a yellow to move to the streets of Arkham. Which will add an investigator and get us rated. So I don't know why I'm rolling these Elder Signs again. But if both of these are Elder Signs, Shub-Niggurath will take her 5th curse and be out of the tournament. One's an Elder Sign, but she's still very much in a bad way. Any progress without being able to destroy those Elder Signs, both the investigators at least leave, so that's something. Any progress without being able to destroy both of those Elder Signs will mean Shub-Niggurath will take her 5th curse. Which the investigators have to try. They'll discard Enlighten the investigators on a blue to move over to the museum. Placing a cultist and an investigator. Rolling for temporary control. Not getting it. We'll take another artifact from the reserve. We'll discard the Chamber's Journal to draw. Shining Trapezohedron. You may hold up to 2 gate cards. Exhaust when another cult moves to the ceremony, draw a gate card. Alright, we don't get the control action. So on a red, the Shub-Niggurath will find. Broken Seal, taking 3 red. We need to get somewhere where we can prep that pronto. Actually, we could probably prep that almost anywhere. Especially down at the ceremony. Getting down there... Well, actually, we even have an option here where we... No, I don't think we want to do that. The investigators will discard a red at the streets of Arkham to move up to the library and place another investigator. Where are we moving is the next question. We could use this find... Actually, that's a power surge. I thought we had another find gate prepared. We probably don't, though. Nope. I keep forgetting about that alter fate, though. Where do we want to move? I think we'll actually discard Coerce the Innocent on a white, or on a yellow, to move down to the streets of Arkham. Cultist, Investigator, and I don't think I need to bother with temporary control here, because getting rid of those 2 investigators clears the supply, clears my lodge. Then on a green, Shub-Niggurath will draw Call of the Wicked Ones, taking a white and 2 yellow. Actually, we should have checked if we were preparing anything. It's not going to change the draw that we've got, but... Actually, yes, we are going to prepare... No, we can't prepare that. So no, we're not preparing anything, which means this will be our draw. We'll draw Call of the Wicked Ones, summon a monster and become cursed, and that'll be from the reserve. The investigators are discarding a red at the library to move to the other worlds, which will place another investigator up there. The question is, can we get to the library? And I think the answer is yes, we can. So I'll discard 2 greens. That's going to, well, I could get to the library, but that would trigger a huge raid. Writing's already on the wall at this point, so F it. At this point, I think we just want this to be over because Shub-Niggurath is not making any headway whatsoever. Cultist Investigator. We control the location, so we can ready an additional spell for free. And we can ready a spell at no cost. On a blue, we find Enthrall. Taking 2 white, choose a location that another cult controls. Destroy 2 of their cultists from that location. On a blue, we'll find Command, taking a purple and a red. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. And on a yellow, Rack, taking 2 white. Just checking to see what I've got prepared here. That won't be that useful. That's Sign of the Brotherhood. Power Surge, we already control the location. Alter Fate, we'll probably need that for a reroll on the raid, even though I think we're just doomed here. So So we do have 3 red at the library, actually, which I can use to prepare naturally and immediately cast Broken Seal, which means I'll destroy an Elder Sign. Do I want to sacrifice a cultist there? I think I will, to destroy another Elder Sign. Just to try to reduce the peril we're in. And then preparing another spell. With 2 white there, I can prepare and immediately cast a Rack to destroy a cultist from a location or lodge. I'll destroy a cultist or an investigator from the lodge, which will stop the raid. And we'll discard all of that, since that's the astral column. Then on a yellow, we will find Broken Seal, taking 3 yellow. Is there anywhere that's got 3 yellow, or a way we can... Yep, we actually could go to the ceremony. Unfortunately, the investigators are going to have something to say about that, as they're going to move down on a white from the other worlds to the ceremony, placing another cultist. But I do get to exhaust the Shining Trapezohedron to draw a gate card. And I can hold up to 2. Coming back to my turn, I want that Broken Seal. This Corruption is basically garbage to me, so I'm going to discard that to move down to the streets of Arkham, which will give me a cultist and an investigator. Then I'll return 2 investigators from the lodge to the supply, sacrifice 1 to return another one. Then with 2 green, red, blue, yellow, and wild. I think we're going to exhaust the Necronomicon to get a wild for another blue. We'll prepare and immediately cast Rack to destroy an investigator from a location or lodge. We'll pull 1 off the ceremony so that we don't get raided on the spot. Actually, we'd still get raided anyway from the looks of it. Then I think we're done there, so we'll discard all of that. On a yellow, the investigators will draw, or on a yellow will draw, Power Surge, taking a purple. The investigators at the ceremony will then discard a white to move up to the other world and place another investigator. Then what are we doing? We'll unexhaust the Necronomicon. And I think we'll use the gate card to move over to the ceremony because F it at this point. That'll trigger another raid at the end of the turn. This will be a big one. Taking a cultist and an investigator. We do control the location. We're going to do this by the book. So we'll lose the Migo, which I don't completely mind that. So we'll discard any monster you control. The Migo will go away, presumably to the bottom of the monster reserve. And we'll draw 3 new monsters. First up, we'll find Hunting Horror. Place the Hunting Horror on this card. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place the Hunting Horror on any lodge. When cultists or investigators are added to the occupied lodge, roll 1 die for each. On a Tentacle or Cthulhu, destroy the investigator or cultist. Then return the Hunting Horror to this card. If Hunting Horror returns to this card and there are no more tokens, remove it from play. Next up, Dark Young. On your turn, you may discard 1 token to place Dark Young on a location. Move all investigators there to an adjacent location, then roll 3 dice. For each Tentacle, destroy 1 cultist. For each Cthulhu, destroy 2. Investigators can't be placed or moved into a location occupied by Dark Young. We'll have to rule that for investigate. That wouldn't really matter because you're scattering the investigators anyway. And Deep Ones. Upon summoning, place 1 Deep One on 3 different locations. On your turn, you may remove one token to choose a location occupied by a Deep One and destroy a cultist or investigator at that location. Deep Ones count as 1 cultist for purposes of control, but can't be sacrificed, and the special is not a thing because Dagon's not an ancient one we're using. Almost by default, we have to take the Deep One. So we'll place that on 3 different locations. I'll get 3 tokens for that. We'll place a Deep One at the Other Worlds, the Museum, and the Gathering. And we drew the Gate card. I'm not going to try to advance on the summon track until I get rid of these Elder Signs. With plenty of symbols there, though, we are probably preparing... Actually, we've got Yellow Wild, so we'll use that to prepare Broken Seal. Prepare and immediately cast Broken Seal to destroy an Elder Sign, and I'll sacrifice 1 there to destroy another one. So we get rid of both of those Elder Signs. And then all of this is gone. Then on a yellow Shub-Niggurath, we'll draw Find Artifact, taking a blue and a red. Draw 1 artifact from the artifact deck. Unfortunately, she is getting rated with 6 dice. That's kind of the risk I took here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, we need, if we get 5 Elder Signs, then our progress meets, and the summon progress meets the Elder Signs, and Shub-Niggurath will take her 5th curse. Let's see, that's 3 Elder Signs, and 1 of the investigators stays. I think we can live with that. Alright, the investigators will then discard a yellow at the Other Worlds to move down to the streets of Arkham, which will put an investigator out and Shub-Niggurath will get rated with 1 die this time. The investigator leaves. And that's something, I guess. Now what are we doing? I think we'll just use the gate to move up to the other worlds. Which will place the cultist, which will place a cultist. Actually, the 3 investigators will come to the lodge. And then we'll place 1. We do control the location. So we'll get the... So any Cthulhus bring the investigators back to the lodge. But if we get at least 2 summons, then we're still taking our 5th curse. Which that's 1 summon, so we'll get to return the investigator or the cultist to the lodge and take 1 summon. Then we've got all kinds of symbols up there. We've got a wild, 2 blue, a red, 2 white, and a yellow, and we've got the Necronomicon that we can exhaust for a wild, which I don't think we'll need, because we'll prepare and immediately cast The Stars Are Right to lose an Elder Sign. I don't want to be just staring down the barrel of the Elder Sign gun at this point. On a blue, Shub-Niggurath will draw Transmogrify to change his face to a green or on a green or a red, changing a roll die to any face. But if it's Tentacle of Cthulhu, become cursed. The investigators will discard a red at the streets of Arkham to move up to the library. As for Shub-Niggurath, she's going to discard a white at the other worlds to move to the museum, which will trigger a raid at the end of her turn. Before we go any further in the turn than placing the cultist and the investigator, I do need to take a small break. We do control the location outright. I'm going to leave the artifact reserve as is. We'll sacrifice 2 cultists to destroy our 2 elder signs. I'm not going to bother with the artifacts. And we've got all kinds of symbols there. Is there anything we can prepare that would help us? Probably not. So on a white, Shub-Niggurath will draw Coerce the Innocent, taking green, blue, yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from any 1 location or lodge to any lodge. Unfortunately, we are getting rated with 6 dice. If at least 4 of these are summons, and we do have some mitigation, but we do have some mitigation for that. If at least 4 of these are elder signs, then she will take her 5th curse and be out of the tournament. Actually, looking at the top of the deck, I think she's out anyway. But we're going to do this by the book. Alright, that's 1 elder... Actually, we should have had 6 dice. That's still 1 elder sign, but the investigator stays. So those 5 leave. That's 1 elder sign. Then looking at what's on top of the deck from the library, the investigators would discard a blue trying to move to the museum, except we're there already. So they move to the other world. We'll put the investigator out anyway. But Shub-Niggurath will take her 5th curse, and she'll be out of the tournament. So, summoned, come on. Summoned no. Progress on track of no is 6. So Shub-Niggurath becomes just the 2nd ancient one to not get summoned. Elder Signs, she had 1 at the end of that, but 5 curses. Okay, so that's it for Shub-Niggurath's playthrough. I'll get everything reset for our last ancient one in this group. We're all set here for our last ancient one's playthrough. So let's go through our starting displays. First, the artifact display we'll start off with. The Silk Shroud of Atlach-Nacha. I did shuffle this off camera. We saw this earlier and largely ignored it. And the Skull of Lore. discard to roll 1 die. On a Cthulhu, discard Skull of Lore, advance 1 on your summon track. On a Greater Elder Sign, become cursed. By the way, just to clarify, that's the Greater Elder Sign. That's a Lesser Elder Sign. Then moving to our monster reserve, first up we have the Shub-Niggurath, which I'm not happy to see in the reserve. It's probably about the only good monster I've seen so far. Well, there are a couple of good monsters for solo. And the Bayaki, which is the other good monster. So this is not good for our last ancient one, but let's go meet that ancient one now. Our last ancient one in this final group is the runner-up to last year's Christmas in Arkham tournament, Yog-Sothoth. Like I said, when we faced him, we actually faced him in the Dunwich Legacy campaign when we did the spring campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game last year. We tapped out from that campaign earlier in the card game due to trauma. As far as here, Yog-Sothoth's special ability is Key and Gate. Look at any one spell card from any location's astral column. You may choose to ready that spell at no cost or discard it. Spells readied that way don't count toward your spell limit. So we'll have designated spaces probably around the playmat, around the mat for spells that we ready that way. On a yellow Yog-Sothoth we'll find Cubes of Power, taking red and white, which we could go ready right away if we want to. When you're rolling dice, you may add 2 additional dice to this roll. But let's see what we've got on 2 green, which is what we'd have to discard. Transmogrify, taking white and yellow. When change any one rolled die to any face, if the new face is Tentacle or Cthulhu, become cursed. That'll be movement fodder. And Corruption, taking a blue and a white. Either sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge or become cursed. Then you may advance 1 on your summon track or destroy 2 elder signs from your lodge. Actually, that idea of going to the ceremony is looking better and better. So let's move over to the altar and get into this playthrough. We are going to discard the 2 green that Yog-Sothoth started with up at the other worlds to move down to the ceremony, which will give us a cultist and an investigator. We'll roll for temporary control up there. Which we get. That's actually kind of a good start. So we'll take a gate card, and then we'll choose to look at a spell from any location's astral column. I'm going to look at this red at the library, and then I may choose to ready it at no cost or discard it, but let's see what we've got here. An Ancient Stirring, taking 3 red. Advance 1 on the summon track. You may sacrifice 1 of your cultists at the current altar location to advance 1 more on your summon track. I will go ahead and ready that. And remember, readying it with that doesn't count toward the spell limit. I think it does count toward your limit for preparing spells, though. I could be wrong on that. And then with a white and red there, I will go ahead and ready Cubes of Power right away. Actually, before we do that, I did get temporary control, so I will sacrifice 2 cultists to get Yog-Sothoth an early jump on his summon track. We'll continue into their meeting. Now I'll go ahead and prepare Cubes of Power into his reserve. So that red's discarded, and then Yog-Sothoth will be drawing 3 cards. On a red he'll find Transmogrify again. That looks like movement fodder to me. On a blue we'll find Alhazred's Vengeance, taking green, red, white. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge. That cult becomes cursed, aka movement fodder. And Enthrall, choosing for 2 white. Choose a location that another cult controls. We'll use investigators in this case. Destroy 2 of their cultists or the investigators from that location. The investigators at the streets of Arkham will discard a blue to move up to the museum and place an investigator. And what we're doing, we've got a gate card available to us for movement, but I don't think we're going to use it because I'm going to use the red card, the Transmogrify, at the ceremony to move up to the library, which will place a cultist, or an investigator, and a cultist. We'll roll for temporary control. Which we don't get this time. That's unfortunate. But I mostly want the draw here anyway. So 1, 2, 3 cards. On a blue, we'll find which is cursed, taking yellow and green. Choose a cult. That cult becomes cursed. Next up, on a green, the stars are right, taking a red and 2 blue. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an elder sign, gain 2 cultists from the abyss, gain 2 investigators, or become cursed. And necessary evil, taking a purple and a yellow. Gain 2 elder signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. Shub-Niggurath could have used that badly. We do need to keep that in mind. We have a red and a yellow. Actually, we have 2 red and a yellow, but we're not preparing anything with that. Nope. Okay. We are going to cast an Ancient Stirring, though, to advance 1 on the summon track, and you can sacrifice a cultist to advance another 1. So we'll advance 2 on the summon track. Yog-Sothoth will then draw Dark Pact, taking a green and a yellow. Become cursed to prevent gaining all elder signs from a single source. The investigators at the museum will then discard a red, trying to move to the library, but they can't get there, so they'll move to the other world instead, which will place an investigator there and give Yog-Sothoth his first curse, which is trouble unless he can get rid of it. Yog-Sothoth, what's he doing for movement? He will discard... He'll discard the stars are right on a green to move down to the gathering, placing a cultist and an investigator. Now does he want I think he wants temporary control of the location. Which he won't get. But what he will get is 3 of his cultists back to the lodge. If I can ever get a hold of them all. And 1 up to the other worlds. With green and yellow, is Yog-Sothoth preparing anything? No. Nope, he's not preparing anything there. So on a red, Yog-Sothoth will find Enlighten the Investigators, taking blue and yellow. Cast when a cult discards a monster token. That cult places 2 investigators in their lodge. The investigators will then discard a red at the other worlds to move down to the library and place an investigator. And what are we doing? Do I think we need to start biting off these onesie-twosie? Hastur managed to win with 1 big bomb. But I think here, do we set up and plan to double back to prepare necessary evil? I think we do. So I'll use the gate to move to... Actually, let's do this. Let's do this instead. I'm going to cheese this a little bit, but I'm going to use necessary evil on a white to move over to the ceremony. Actually, no, that's dumb. Because I want to be able to do that when I've got the gate card. Or when I don't have a gate card. So I think I'll discard 2 blue. Actually, I'll Hazard's Vengeance on a blue to move up to the museum, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I was going to get cheesy with it, but I was going to get cheesy with preparing that necessary evil. But I realized I have a gate card, so I could have used that for movement, but oh well. Right, we need to roll for temporary control of the museum, which I'm not sure I care about, truth be told, but so I don't have any elder signs right now. I don't get control anyway. I don't like these artifacts, so I'll draw one from the deck. I will draw the Shining Trapezohedron. Okay, now I don't mind moving down to the ceremony, which we might do here pretty soon. Then with blue, red, yellow... no, we're not readying anything there. Yog-Sothoth on a green will draw Mind Switch, taking a red and a blue. Swap one of your investigators from any one location with any other, or cultist, with any other cultist at a different location. I swap cultists around as a house rule. The investigators will then discard a blue at this library, trying to move to the museum, except we're there, so they'll move to the other worlds, placing a cultist and giving Yog-Sothoth his... not that yet, giving him his second curse. And Yog-Sothoth... okay, now we can get cheesy with it, now that I've got the Shining Trapezohedron in hand. Now I'll discard necessary evil to move down to the ceremony, placing a cultist and an investigator. Temporary control actually doesn't matter here, because I would need two cultists there and I only have one. But I will draw a gate card, since I can hold two at the Shining Trapezohedron, and I get to look at a spell in any location's astral column, and I can ready it at no cost or discard it. I think I'll look at this white card in the astral column for the museum. Hey, look at that. It's a necessary evil. So I'll actually prepare that at no cost. And remember, spells I prepare that way don't count toward the limit. I still have a regular prep I can do, where I've got two white, a red, and a yellow. Which I can't prepare anything with that. On a yellow, I will draw Broken Seal, taking 3 yellow. Destroy 1 elder sign. I can sacrifice a cultist at the current altar location to destroy 1 more. The investigators at the other worlds will discard a red to move over to the library and place an investigator. I will use a gate card for movement, since I can have 2 of them. Then where do I want to move? Are there any spells I'm looking to prepare this turn? Actually, there's one I could prepare. Actually, there's a couple I could prepare. I think either way, though, I am going to move up to the other worlds, because I got to start making some headway on Yog-Sothoth's summon track. Curses aren't going to be a huge problem, though, I don't think. So these 3 investigators move to the lodge, and we replace 1. We have control of the location, so we get the effect of, if we roll any Cthulhu's on this summon roll, we get to return the investigators to the lodge instead of the abyss. So let's see what happens here. We're already at 3 on the summon track, though. We get to sacrifice 2 cultists, 1 of which will go back to the lodge. We'll move another 2 on the summon track. 1, 2. Then with wild symbols, with wild, 3 green and a blue, and 2 red, I'm actually going to use the red to prepare a mind switch, and I'll immediately cast it. To swap this investigator with this cultist. That's how we'll do that. And all of that's gone. On a white, Yog-Sothoth will draw Rack, taking 2 blue. Destroy 1 investigator from any 1 location or lodge. The investigators will then discard a yellow at the library to move to the streets of Arkham, which will place an investigator and will immediately get rated with 3 dice. Fortunately, we have 3 dice in the Dice Tower's tray already. So that makes life easy on that front, at least. Yowza! 3 Elder Signs and 2 Investigators stay. Ouch. That is not good for Yog-Sothoth to repeat his performance last year in getting to the Fate of the in getting to the winners group last year. That is not promising at all. Ouch. That was brutal for the key in the gate for Yog-Sothoth. What is he doing though? That is a good question. I think we're going to... Yikes, do I risk getting raided again? I don't think that's worth the risk. I gotta be careful where I move to, though. I'm going to use the gate for movement. The only question is, where am I moving? I think we're going to move to... the Gathering. Placing a cultist and an investigator. We'll see if we get temporary control of the location. Which we don't get. What we do get is 3 of our cultists back to the lodge. And we can move 1 up to the other worlds. With green, red, yellow, I don't think Yog-Sothoth is... Actually, green, yellow, Yog-Sothoth can prepare Dark Pact, which will get him cursed to prevent gaining all Elder Signs from a source. So we could potentially use that to stop a particularly nasty raid. Then on a green Yog-Sothoth, or on a white Yog-Sothoth, we'll draw Alhazred's Vengeance, taking a white, green, red. Reveal when another cult takes an action that places at least 1 investigator on your lodge, that cult becomes cursed. The investigators will discard a red to move up to the library. That location is hopping with investigators. I think here we are going to have to risk a raid. So I'll use the Alhazred's Vengeance we just drew to move down to the Gathering, which will give me all 4 of these investigators. I am going to be getting raided this turn. Cultist and investigator. Temporary control doesn't matter for us. So I'm going to place a gate. I'm going to get a gate. And then I'm going to look at a spell. I'm going to look at the green at the library. So let's see what we've got here. The stars are right. Assign each cult, including yours, one of the following. Lose an Elder Sign, gain 2 investigator cultists from the Abyss. Gain 2 investigators, become cursed. I think we'll take that mostly for the losing Elder Signs. What else do I have prepared here? Oh, right. Alright, so now we have red, blue, yellow. Actually, we got a lot of spells, a lot of symbols for readying spells. What we don't have is a 3rd yellow to prepare a broken seal, but we don't have... Actually, we don't... I don't think there's anything I'm particularly interested in right now, to be honest. I take that back. Actually, there's Enthrall that I'm interested in, so I could use that to get rid of a couple of investigators, and I'll get rid of... Let's get rid of 2 investigators from the library, so that's actually a less dangerous place to go to. I've got 2 white and what I've got prepared, so I'll get rid of the investigators at the library, and then I'll draw a card. Yog-Sothoth will draw on a white. Coerce the Innocent, taking green, blue, yellow. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodges. The investigators at the library will then discard a... Oh, wait, I looked at the wrong... Oh, no. I did look at the... Hold on. I just did something wrong here, didn't I? I think I looked at the wrong... Hold on. I think I was looking at the wrong location. With red, white, wild card, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to prepare anything. I was looking at the wrong location. See, I wouldn't have been able to prepare anything with blue, white, or with blue, red, with white, red, wild. That. Anyway, the investigators are discarding. Actually, before we do that, we have to get rated with 6 dice. This is problematic. But we do have the dark pack that we can use to prevent ourselves from... Hold on. That was... Okay, I think we prepped that earlier. Oh, wait. No, I think I know what... Okay, that was 2 white to... Okay, so the way we're going to do that is I'm going to rule that this astral column should have been gone from preparing the rack. That's what it was. I had the 2 white on my spells prepped. That's how I was able to prep that. Okay, now that we got that straight, we're getting rated with a lot more than 1 die, Phoenix. Let's keep this straight, shall we? 6 dice. And I'm about 99% certain I'm going to need that Dark Pact. One Elder Sign, and the Investigator stays. Yeah, I could probably live with that. I'll need to get... Actually, I can probably just cast... The Stars Are Right, so I don't take the Elder Sign. Okay, that could have been a lot more catastrophic. 5 investigators leave. Okay, now that we've got all of that sorted out, at the library, the investigators are going to discard a white, trying to move to the ceremony, except they move up to the other worlds, and give Yog-Sothoth his 3rd curse, except I think this is our cue to use Necessary Evil, retreating 1 on the summon track to destroy all curses. So we'll retreat 1 to destroy all curses. So now Yog-Sothoth is completely clear of curses, but he's still got those 3 Elder Signs hanging over his head like the sword of Damocles. So he's still got a big problem on his hands. He's got to get rid of those pronto. He needs to go up to the museum for that. But he's going to be pulling more investigators onto his location. But I think he's got to take the risk. So we'll discard Witch's Curse on a blue to move up to the museum, which will bring 3 more investigators back. Which will bring 3 investigators back to the lodge. Then he'll place another cultist and an investigator. We control the location outright, so we will draw an artifact. So Yog-Sothoth will draw the Silver Key. Exhaust, move 1 cultist from any one location to another location where you have 1 or fewer. Discard to move the Fate Piece to any other location, and I rule that you interact with either one. You can interact with either Fate Piece doing that. Then he does have control, so he'll sacrifice... Does he sacrifice all 3 of his cultists? I think he has to. So he'll sacrifice all 3 cultists to get rid of his 3 Elder Signs. 1, 2, 3. So those are all gone. And then with blue, 2 yellow, red, and white, he's 1 yellow short to being able to prepare the Broken Seal. I don't think there's anything he wants to prepare at this point. So, on a blue, Yog-Sothoth will draw Call of the Wicked Ones, taking a green and 2 white, summon a monster and become cursed. The investigators of the other worlds will discard a white to move down to the ceremony, which will place a cultist. Yog-Sothoth will exhaust the Shining Trapezohedron to draw another gate card, which he'll actually immediately use for movement to move up to the other worlds, placing a cultist and another investigator. He controls the location, so any Cthulhus he rolls here will give him the cultist back. in his lodge. So let's see what happens here. That is 1 on the summon track. So Yog-Sothoth will sacrifice 1 cultist and advance 1 on the summon track. Alright, and then before, actually, we can finish the turn. We've got 2 wild, 2 white, and a yellow. Which the wilds and the yellow will be enough to prepare Broken Seal. So we'll prepare that there. The astral symbols all go away. And then on a green, Yog-Sothoth will draw. Power Surge, taking a purple. Until the end of your turn, you control your current location. Before we go into the investigator's next turn, I need to take a small break. Almost perfect timing. The camera cut off just as I was getting ready to take a small break. So, the investigators will discard a yellow at the ceremony to move to the streets of Arkham, which will place another investigator, and Yog-Sothoth will get rated with 4 dice. He cannot seem to keep these elder signs clear. The investigators are fighting him tenaciously here. 3 elder signs and 1 investigator stays. That's what the greater elder sign result means the investigator stays on the lodge. So 3 elder signs, which means Yog-Sothoth is right back to being in trouble. He could become cursed, and I think he will. He'll become cursed to prevent gaining all 3 of those elder signs. That's probably worthwhile. Even if it all but means that Yog-Sothoth will not be our opponent for Christmas in Arkham this year. But it's better than taking 3 elder signs. As for what the investigators are, as for what we're doing, let's look at what we've got in hand. We've got some pretty crappy spells, but also some pretty crappy move options. Ow. With my tongue, I'll unexhaust the Shining Trapezohedron. We'll discard the Enlighten the Investigators on a red at the other worlds to move to the library, which will bring these 3 investigators into the lodge. Placing a cultist and an investigator. We'll roll for temporary control of the library. Which we don't get. But we do get to ready 1 additional spell this turn. 2, 3. On a red, Yog-Sothoth will find Cubes of Power, taking a blue and a green, 2 additional dice to the roll. On another red, Broken Seal, taking 3 red. And on a blue, Shadow Walk, to sacrifice a cultist and become cursed to immediately take another turn at the end of your turn. Are we preparing anything with 3 yellow, red, white, blue? No, we are not. Alright, then Yog-Sothoth will draw. On a blue, he'll draw. Command, taking a purple and a red. Move a monster in a location or lodge to any other location or lodge. The investigators from the streets of Arkham will discard a yellow, but they can't stay there, so they'll move up to the other worlds and place an investigator. I wish we had... Do we have a yellow that we can discard? We do not, but we have a couple of blue that we can probably toss. Yeah, so we'll do that. I want to try to get rid of some of these cultists on the lodge. So we'll discard 2 blue to move down to the streets of Arkham, which will take these 3... Oh, yikes. This was actually bad. We'll place a cultist... I forgot about that. But I think pretty much anything I did, I was going to be triggering a raid, and even if I get rid of... I need temporary control here, because if I don't get temporary control, I'm getting raided with at least 5 dice. With 5 dice. which I unfortunately do not get. Actually, we'll leave the dice tower in shot, but I will get to get rid of 2 cultists, or 2 investigators. Is there anything I can do? No. Nope, there's nothing I can do there. So, I don't think I'm preparing any spells with 3 yellow, with 5 yellow and a blue. Nope. So on a green, Yog-Sothoth will draw. Coerce the Innocent, taking red, yellow, white. Move up to 2 investigators from any one location or lodge to any lodge. So Yog-Sothoth is now getting rated with 5 dice. Gross result, 3 Elder Signs and all the investigators giving Elder Signs stay. That is a major problem for Yog-Sothoth. So 2 investigators leave, but 3 stay. That is a very disgusting result for the key in the gate. Anyway, the investigators will discard a blue to move over to the museum and place an investigator there. And what are we doing? I mean, we already have a curse plus the 3 Elder Signs. So I think Yog-Sothoth is in pretty deep water any way we look at it. Let's see, we've got 3 yellow. I don't know if there's anywhere that we really want to go right now. Let's see, the Gathering would get us... The Gathering, the Other Worlds... Actually, the only safe location this turn that we could move to is the library. And I think we'll have to discard 2 white at the Streets of Arkham to move up to the library. Like I said, that's our only safe location this turn. And we'll draw 3 cards, and we'll get to prepare a spell. Actually, we do control the location, so we can prepare a spell for free. On a blue, we draw Enlighten the Investigators, taking a red and a white. On a red, Rack, taking 2 green. And on another red, Mind Switch, taking a blue and a green. Swap one of your investigators from any one location with any other investigator at a different location. Let's see, with 3 blue, 3 yellow, red, white. 3 blue, 3 yellow, red, white. I don't think there's anything I'm particularly interested in there. But I will sacrifice a cultist there to prepare and immediately cast Broken Seal to destroy 1 Elder Sign, and I'll sacrifice another cultist to get rid of 2. Trying to keep these Elder Signs clear, but the bigger problem right now is that curse that Yog-Sothoth has on him. Because remember, via tiebreakers, Hastur would still advance to the winner's group. So all of that's gone. And then on a red, Yog-Sothoth will draw Gate to the Past, taking 2 blue and a white. At the end of any other cult's turn, you may sacrifice 2 cultists from your lodge to take the current location's basic action. The investigators will discard a white card at the library, at the museum, to move to the ceremony, placing another cultist. I'll exhaust the Shining Trapezohedron to draw another gate card, which I'll immediately use for movement on my turn. The only question is, where do I want to move? Right now I've got a couple safe locations now. I've got the museum and the Streets of Arkham, which are both safe. The problem is if I do that, I'm not making any real headway. So I think we'll move to... I'm looking at spells I might want to prepare. I think we'll move to the museum, because I can at least prepare a spell there. That'll be moderately useful. Placing a... Okay, this was a bad idea because I forgot I'm out of... I think here I've got to bite the bullet. So that'll be my last cultist and an investigator. And I think I do want temporary control, but let's face it, I'm in deep trouble here. Because I'm out of cultists in the lodge, so I've got to move to the gathering. I do get temporary control, so that's helpful. I get 3 cultists back to the lodge. And I'll move both of these to the other worlds. With green and white, I don't think we're preparing anything. We are, well, green, white, and 2 yellow. We are not preparing anything. So on a blue, Yog-Sothoth will draw. Another mind switch. Now we could have prepared that, but we're already past the point of the turn for that. So Yog-Sothoth is now getting rated with 6 dice. 5, and there's one in the trail already. Oop, there we go. One Elder Sign and that investigator stays. Again, another case where the result could have been a lot worse. So we'll get those back to the supply. Move that out of the way. The investigators will then discard a green at the ceremony to try to move to the gathering, but we're there, so they move to the other worlds, and Yog-Sothoth takes his second curse. I don't think we have a way right now that we can get rid of curses. We had a spell that we used earlier, but we still have these 2 Elder Signs. Which I think... Well, we gotta find a different altar location, though. So with that in mind, I will discard a Shadow Walk here on a blue to move up to the museum, which will place a cultist and an investigator. I may end up ping-ponging between the museum and the gathering for a while. Am I going to be able to... There was a spell I was looking at preparing, and I can prepare it here. Let's see if I get temporary control of the location first, though. I do not get temporary control. I will draw an artifact from the top of the deck. I will draw Forgotten Tome. Exhaust when another cult moves to the library. Draw 2 spell cards. Okay, and now I will prepare and immediately cast Mind Switch, using the gate there as a green, to swap a cultist from any location with an investigator at a different location. So I'll swap this cultist with this investigator. All of this is gone. And then that's discarded as well. Then on a yellow, Yog-Sothoth will draw Necessary Evil, taking a purple and a blue. This couldn't have come at a much better time for Yog-Sothoth. Gain 2 Elder Signs or retreat 1 on your summon track to destroy all curses on you. The investigators will then discard a yellow at the other worlds to move down to the streets of Arkham, which will trigger a 1-die raid, but sometimes 1 die is all it takes. That is an Elder Sign, but the investigator at least leaves. So that's Yog-Sothoth's 3rd Elder Sign. We'll bring that out of shot for a second. We are going to use the gate card at the museum for movement to go up to the other worlds, which will place a 7th cultist and another investigator. Then, since we have control of the location by a little more than 2 to 1, we do get the Cthulhu effect when we roll for summons here. But we only need 4 to get Yog-Sothoth summoned, but he'll take his 3rd curse on the way, because he'll meet the Elder Signs on the summon track. We're also going to add cubes of power to the roll to give 2 additional dice. Actually, before he does this roll, he's going to do the roll first. That is 2. That'll be sacrificing 2 cultists, 1 returning to the lodge, 1 Shu, and Yog-Sothoth will take his 3rd curse. That'll only happen to him once, fortunately, but he will cast Broken Seal to destroy an Elder Sign, and then he'll sacrifice a cultist to destroy 1 more. Then up there, he will... What will he prepare? We're going to prepare and immediately cast Necessary Evil. So he'll retreat 1 on his summon track to destroy all curses on him. Which means he's back down to 0 curses, but still that 1 Elder Sign. So those are gone. And then on a green, Yog-Sothoth will draw Find Gate, taking a red and a white. Speaking of red, the investigators will discard a red to move over to the library, placing another investigator. And what are we doing? Are we going... Actually, we've got a little bit of time before we need to go back to the gathering. Could we go to the... We could get to the ceremony, but I don't think... Actually, no, that might be worth it. So we'll discard... I don't want to use a mind switch to do it, though. Rack isn't that interesting. Gate to the past. I think we'll discard... Okay, let me look at what our matching symbols are here. Actually, most of these spells are pretty good. I want to try to get to the ceremony as the plan. So I think we actually are going to do this. So we're going to use the rack and the gate to the past, which are 2 red. I gotta remember which is which, because I'm gonna cheese this a little bit. Yep, okay. We'll move down to the ceremony, which will pull the 3 investigators over to the lodge. Occultist, investigator. And I think we do want temporary control here, so we'll get the roll for that. Once we get the dice tower tray empty. Our next turn, we do have to go to the gathering if we can get there. We don't get temporary control, but I will take the... Oh, I forgot to exhaust the Forgotten Tome. We'll pretend actually, no, we won't do that. We take the gate, and we'll look at this spell. Gee, I wonder what this one is. Gate to the past, so I remembered correctly, which means we get to put that... Which means we'll prep that for free. Then with white, blue, yellow, green, and a red, I will prepare and immediately cast Mind Switch. So all of this will go away. And then I can swap an investigator from any location with an investigator, or the cultist from any location with an investigator at a different location. So I'll swap this cultist with this investigator. So that's all gone. Then on a yellow, Yog-Sothoth will draw another Power Surge, taking a purple once again. At the library, the investigators will discard a green to move down to the gathering, which will place another cultist. Then I'll use the gate of the ceremony to move back to the other worlds, which will place a 6th cultist. Actually, well, I couldn't go to the gathering anyway, so that'll place my 6th cultist. I'll have to take an Elder Sign penalty if this fails. I need at least 3 on the You need at least 3 summons, though, to be able to get Yog-Sothoth summoned. Which unfortunately isn't going to matter because of the 1 Elder Sign he still has. But let's see what happens here at any rate. So that's 4, that'll be 4 cultists sacrificed. 2 would go back to the lodge if we're doing this by the book. 1, 2, 3. Yog-Sothoth will get summoned. So we'll make a note here. Yes to summoned. He had 1 Elder Sign and no curses. Because of the 1 Elder Sign Yog-Sothoth took to Hastur taking 0, however, and having a great performance in the play-in group, Hastur will actually advance to the winners group on Sunday for the finals of the Fate of the Elder Gods tournament for Christmas in Arkham. So that will do it for the play-in groups. Like I said, the winners group is all set up for Sunday. Before we get there on Saturday, Mystical Munchies finishes up out of the Heroes Feast official Dungeons & Dragons cookbook with the dessert, Trolltide Candied Apples. And then Wednesday next week, we're debuting our last new game for New Game November as we play Spirit Island. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.